Hi, my name is Tracy Wilson, and I'm originally from Westminster, Maryland, which is an old Civil War town in Western Maryland. My ghost story started in December of 2011 when I went home to visit my family for the holidays. Prior to that, my grandmother, who was the rock and the glue who held our family together, passed away approximately 5 years ago. And upon her passing, I whispered in her ear and asked her if she could be one of my guardian angels. And I believe that she heard me. And so I wasn't able to go home for Thanksgiving. And since my grandmother passed away, the family has become somewhat disjointed, and people are kind of just doing their own things. And we weren't the close, cohesive family that we once were when my grandmother was alive. So I couldn't go home for Thanksgiving, and I have a picture of my grandmother that I talk to frequently. And, I just talked to her, heartfeltly, and I said, Grandma, I can't go home for Thanksgiving. I really wanted to go home and, try to see what's going on in the family and, reconnect with people that, I kind of drifted away from. And you're really the only glue, whether you're here physically or not, who can help our family. So when I went home for Christmas, that was the prime opportunity for me to kill two birds with one stone, and that was to go home, reconnect with family, and then also to go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which I had been dreaming of forever. I've always been interested in the supernatural, always had my head in the books about supernatural, so this was my time to finally get the guts to go and do some paranormal investigating. I'm just a novice, by the way. So anyway, I go home, and I believe it was like December 27th. It was right after Christmas, and I was just taking pictures in my grandmother's house, and my aunt Lisa lives there now. And I was just taking pictures in the house, and I don't know, something just compelled me just to take a picture in the archway towards the front of the house. And when I looked at the picture later, I saw what looked to be an orb at the top right, kind of like hovering above, well, kind of like in between the door and the closet. So I looked at it, and I didn't know what to think of it. And so finally, I just showed my Aunt Lisa, and I said, hey, take a look at this picture and tell me if you see anything. And she looked at it, and she goes, what is that thing, that white thing above the door? And I says, well, I personally believe it to be an orb, but I'm not an expert. So, we, over the next couple of days, we took pictures in the house, and then her and I just decided that we were going to try to conduct some sort of EVP to see if we could make contact with my grandmother, whose name is Bernice. So it was quiet. It was about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. We drank a little bit to get our nerve up to start this process, and we did. And I think after roughly about maybe 30 minutes to an hour of going around the house, snapping pictures, having major technical difficulties with our cameras not working. I mean, I think I probably went through that weekend at least 25 batteries. So we had a lot of technical difficulties with getting the cameras to work, and then I asked a question, Bernice, if you're here, please give us a sign, please talk to us in this box so that we can hear you. And later on, when we reviewed the EVP sessions, we actually heard a voice, like a whispery voice, a woman's voice, over my voice after I asked the question, say, yes. And it literally freaked me out. I mean, both of us heard it. It freaked us both out. We listened to it over and over again just to make sure, are we hearing this? Is this for real? And it was for real. It was a real voice, a woman's voice, responding to my direct question, and that is, "Are you okay?" And she responded with a yes. And we just couldn't believe it. And on top of the EVP of my grandmother and the picture of the orb, we shared it with the family. And then later on that evening, we came back to the house with another aunt, and we started conducting more EVPs and taking more pictures. We've got a lot of orbs that showed up in our pictures. Some of them look like past pets. Some of them we can't really tell who they are by looking at the face that's in the orb. But that was really a time that I was able to share with my family, and for all of us to hear the voice, on the EVP, on the digital recorder, responding to my direct question, and that is, "Are you okay?" And that was one of the greatest Christmases I've ever had. One, because that was my grandmother's favorite holiday in the whole wide world, and if she was going to come back, she would come back during that time when we were celebrating Christmas in her home. And it just made us all feel some sort of comfort to know that our loved ones, even our past pets, are still there to look after us and love us even after their physical bodies are gone. The second part to my ghost story is, during that 3 or 4 days that I was in Maryland, I decided to take a trip with my aunt and a couple of cousins. We went to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Took lots of pictures. I have a lot of strange looking things in many of my pictures. But one thing in particular is when we went to an old 250-year-old bridge called SACH'S Bridge. I've heard a lot about it. As a matter of fact, I've seen it on some ghost shows, and I said, "Hey, when I go to PA, that's where I'm going." And so I coerced my family members to come with me. Gave them the story of SACH'S Bridge, which was a major way for both sides of the Union and the Confederates to transport in between, to get things over to both sides, and also served as sort of like an outdoor hospital. And it's rumored that over 700 people have died in and around SACH'S Bridge, women, children, soldiers, slaves. So we took lots of pictures. I have lots of orbs in many of my pictures. I have an image of, I knew there was a rumor of a small little girl who died at SACH'S Bridge, and I had my little cousin there who was 8 years old at the time. And I was telling her the story of the little girl, and I was talking, I had my digital recorder set up, and I was talking and said, "Hey, if there's a little girl here, I brought my little cousin here, can you come talk to her? And she'd really love to meet you." Well, we didn't pick up any voices on the digital recorder of the little girl, but there's a strange picture that I have that, it's a picture of my niece, and when you look above her, it's sort of like through a little opening of the bridge, there is a figure of which looks like to be a little girl with long brown hair and old-fashioned dress on, and she looks like she might be holding something, and she's actually peering down to the very spot where my cousin is standing, which I thought was really weird. Secondly, we did pick up many voices at SACH'S Bridge. We were joking around, and I don't know, maybe we were being disrespectful about people riding on the bridge, and we wanted to ride on the bridge too, and we got a man's voice, and it sounded like he was just kind of sick of us. And so over our voices, you hear a man's voice go, and that was kind of weird. And then there's another spot when I start talking, about the bridge and stuff like that, and there's a man's voice who immediately comes over mine, and he says, "Sweetheart." And that was really weird. I didn't hear that at first. I had somebody else actually pick that up, but the man's voice that's going, my Aunt Lisa and I, we were back home after the day at Gettysburg. We had a great time. We're back at the house. We're having drinks. It's late at night. We're listening to the EVPs. We hear this man's voice come across our digital recorder, and we both freak out. She goes running out of the kitchen and into a closet, literally into a closet. I freak out. I jump up. I start running out of the kitchen while still holding the digital recorder. I slip. I fall on my butt. The digital recorder goes crashing to the ground. Batteries fly everywhere. And it literally took us 10 or 15 minutes to calm down and stop shaking. And we re-listened to the EVPs, and we just could not justify where this male voice came from over top of mine or ours. And that was our experience at SACH'S Bridge, which I firmly believe is very, very haunted. I'm planning a trip back in May of 2012 when it's a little bit warmer. And I do plan on visiting Gettysburg, Pennsylvania again, some of the hot spots that I wasn't able to get to this time. And of course, I am going back to SACH'S Bridge, and hopefully I can capture more evidence. So this is my brand new start of eventually becoming, I guess, a novice paranormal investigator. But I truly believe, and I've always believed since I was a little kid, that there is a spiritual world out there. I've had several spiritual experiences with, throughout my life, and this was for me the cream of the crop. So, and that's my ghost story.